Hello, my topic is what are the mechanics of writing from the 7th edition of Rules for Writers. The mechanics of writing consist of abbreviations, numbers, italics, spelling, the hyphen, and capital letters. Let's first cover abbreviations. An abbreviation is a shortened form of a word or phrase. We use abbreviations every day when we write letters such as Dr., Mr., Mrs. Abbreviations for titles should be used immediately before or after the proper name. Abbreviations should not be used unless it is used with the proper name. For example, if you say Dr. Bob Smith, you have to have a name with it, Bob Smith, in order to use the abbreviation. And also only use the abbreviation once, either before or after. Don't say Dr. Bob Smith, MD. Choose one or the other at the beginning or either at the end of the proper name. Use abbreviations that will be familiar to the audience. When choosing to use an unfamiliar abbreviation, write out the full name, and then after doing that once, the abbreviation may be used the rest of the paper. The abbreviations BC, AD, AM, and PM should only be used with specific dates and times. Formal papers are a little more strict on the use of abbreviations. For example, abbreviations should not be used for personal names, units of measurements, days of the week, holidays, months, course of study, divisions of written works, states and countries. All of these should be spelled out completely. Also, use Latin abbreviations sparingly. One of the most common Latin abbreviations is etc., which means and so forth, or IE, which means that is. When writing a formal paper, use the appropriate English phrase, not the abbreviation. Okay, that pretty much covers abbreviations. Now let's move on to numbers. Numbers are used quite frequently in writing. There are a few rules when it comes to using numbers. One of those rules is when writing a sentence, if the number comes at the beginning, it should always be spelled out. Also, if the number is only 1 or 2 words, it must be spelled out, like the number 9 or 22, for example. If you have a number that is more than 2 words, use the actual number. For example, 556 or 329. Those you can use the actual number. If the number is long, rewriting the sentence may be a better choice for you. Writing the actual number is pretty much acceptable for dates, addresses, percentages, fractions, decimals, scores, statistics, or any other numerical result. Also, when referring to the time, write out the words when not using AM or PM. If you're saying 5 o'clock and you're not using AM or PM, you must write out the words 5 o'clock. Okay, let's move on to italics. Italics is the slanting of words which is used in printed material. In handwritten material, underlining is used. Most instructors have a preference and they will let you know which method they prefer. If the computer program being used does not allow underlining or italics, then underscore marks or asterisks can be used before and after the word that's supposed to be italicized. Works should always be italicized. Some examples are titles of books, magazines, newspapers, pamphlets, long poems, and websites. Short stories, essays, radio and TV programs should be enclosed in quotation marks. When referring to the Bible or historical documentation or computer software titles, and even the title of student papers, do not underline or use italics. When referring to the name of aircraft, spaceship, or ships, those should all be italicized or underlined. Words mentioned as words or numbers mentioned as numbers and letters mentioned as letters must be underlined or italicized. Try avoiding using too much underlining or italics for emphasis because these can be distracting to the reader. Okay, we're going to move on to spelling now. Having a dictionary is a big help for writers. Understanding the dictionary is also helpful too. When looking up the spelling of a word, the preferred way of spelling the word will be listed first. If there are 2 ways, also if the word is a compound word, the main entry will show how to write it as 1 word, as a hyphenated word, or as 2 words. After the main entry is the pronunciation of the word. Some online sources even have a link where the pronunciation of the word can actually be heard. This is very helpful too. If sometimes you have problems in the dictionary and you're still not clear about it, you can go to, Google websites and type in the word, and it usually will have a spot on there where you can click and hear the word. I find that helpful sometimes when I'm, trying to read stuff and need to know how to pronounce the word. When referring to parts of speech or other grammatical terms, some are abbreviated. Some of those commonly used are N for noun, PL for plural, SING for singular, V for verb, or ADJ for adjective. When a word can be used more than once or has a different meaning, a number is given for each example. The origin of the word will appear in brackets after all the meanings in the print version. In the online version, the origin will appear before the meanings. The dictionary may also include the usage of the word and give you a sentence as an example to kind of help you know how the word is used. This will be under usage notes. The advice for usage is based on the opinion of experts in magazines, newspapers, and books. Some words sound alike, but they have different meanings, so this can be confusing to some people. These are called homophones. Some examples are the word loose, which is L-O-O-S-E, and lose, L-O-S-E. And your is Y-O-U-R, and also Y-O-U''re. And affect and effect, A-F-F-E-C-T and E-F-F-E-C-T. Be careful and have someone proofread your work before turning it in. Always try to refer to the dictionary to see which spelling of the word you will need to use. Also, try to become familiar with major spelling rules, such as the use of I before E except after C, or when sounded like A, A-Y. Also, the final silent E should be dropped if adding a suffix that begins with a vowel, such as combine to combination, drop the E. But when the suffix begins with an A, with a consonant, keep the E. An example of this is care, the word care, and careful, or gentle and gentleness. And when writing words that end in a Y, change the ending to IE when the Y is preceded by a consonant, but not when preceded by a vowel. An example of this would be laundry. You would want to change it to laundries. You would drop the Y and it would become, instead of L-A-U-N-D-R-Y, it would become L-A-U-N-D-R-I-E-S, the plural form of laundry. And when it's preceded by a vowel, add an S or a D. Okay, when dealing with plurals, knowing when to add an S or an ES can be helpful. Most nouns just require an S at the end to make it plural, but some that end in S, SH, CH, and X will need an ES at the end. Take the word brush, for example. Since it ends in SH, we would need to add ES to make it plural. Okay, now that we understand the basics of spelling, let's move on to hyphens. A hyphen is used to connect two words such as firefly and to firefly. Firefly is spelled F-I-R-E-F-L-Y, and if you were to use a hyphen, it would be F-I-R-E-F-L-Y. A dictionary is the place to check to see if the word needs to be hyphenated or not. If the word cannot be found in the dictionary, treat it as two words without a hyphen. So just separate them, fire and then fly, without a hyphen. When two or more words functioning together as an adjective come before a noun, use a hyphen. When the adjective comes after the noun, do not use a hyphen. Use hyphens to avoid misinterpretation. Take this sentence, for example. He is a small businessman. Okay, for that, we don't use a hyphen between small and businessman. Or he is a small businessman. The hyphen clears things up a little bit. Without the hyphen, it sounds like the businessman is small in stature. But if you use a hyphen in between small businessman, you know that they're referring to small business, a man that works at a small business. This helps to clear things up and can kind of be silly to your reader if you don't use the hyphen correctly or if you leave the hyphen out entirely. Hyphens are also used to divide a word at the end of a line. The word must be divided correctly. Never divide one-syllable words and never leave a word with a single letter at the end of a line or fewer than 3 letters to begin a line. When a compound word is being divided, break between the words that form the compound word, or put the whole word on the next line. Okay, now that we have covered hyphens, let's move on to our final topic under mechanics of writing, capital letters. A dictionary is always a good place to go if you're unsure of what needs to be capitalized and what does not. Proper nouns should always be capitalized. These include religions, sacred books, particular places, nationalities, and their languages, and of course holidays, days of the week, and months. Those are all treated as proper nouns and should always be capitalized. Seasons, numbers, and numbers of the days of the month are not, and therefore those should not be capitalized. They are not considered proper nouns. When titles of persons are used as part of a proper name, they should be capitalized, but not when they're used alone. For example, Professor Bob Jones should be capitalized because we are using the title professor with a proper name, Bob Jones. But when not using a title with a proper name, such as the district, just basically the district attorney will not be capitalized because there isn't a proper name used with it. Also, letters will need to be capitalized when listing major words in titles and subtitles. Nouns, pronouns, adjectives, and adverbs should be capitalized. Words such as to, and of should not be capitalized unless they are the first or last word of a title or subtitle. The first word of a sentence must always be capitalized. Also, when a sentence is in parentheses, capitalize its first word unless the parentheses appears within another sentence. The first word of a quoted sentence should be capitalized, but not a quoted phrase. Since we are using the MLA writing style in this class, we would not use a capital letter to begin an independent clause following a colon. We would also use lowercase after colon to introduce a list. Call letters of radio and television stations should also be capitalized. Okay, this concludes our lecture of the mechanics of writing. I hope this presentation has been helpful to you. Thank you so much and happy writing.